Securities lending is at its infancy in the Nigerian market, but the industry regulators and professionals want to raise the game in order to deepen liquidity, help investors diversify their portfolios, and lots more. So the Nigerian Exchange, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and other partners gathered online earlier today to provide clarity on the rules, processes, risks, and return of securities lending. Let's take a listen to the panelists.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has continued its dual mandate of regulating and developing the Nigerian capital market. Hence, is committed to maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets and protect the interests of the investors. The new provision of the Business Facilitation Act, which enables the PFAs to participate in the securities lending transaction, we no doubt enhance the market, deepen the market, create more activities, and increase liquidity. The Commission in 2011 developed rules in this regard with respect to securities lending transactions. We have the general requirements for securities lending transactions. For example, we have the lending agreement between the lender, the lending agent, and the lender, and also a separate agreement between the lending agent and the borrower. We have the charges, fees for lending. We also for depositing/lending. We also have the treatment for dividend payments and other rights with respect to the agreement. We also have the arrangements of dealing with corporate actions. These are some of the general requirements.
We are looking at the investment regulation that guides the investment activities of PFAs. We are trying to update it and amend certain aspects of the regulation to broaden the available assets and also deepen it in terms of what is on offer for PFAs. We know the current challenges in the business environment. We know the issues with inflation, currency. So we're trying to diversify the investment space. So it's a very good time to also include securities lending. What we are doing is we've actually had engagements with the NGX, with other stakeholders to better understand and dimension how it's going to fit into the broad spectrum of the investment activities of the PFA, and also ensure that we put in our own internal risk management measures within the regulation to, the nature of the scheme is contributory, and the contributor bears the risk. We're not saying that once you are investing, obviously you are taking risks, but those risks have to be understood. They need to, to understand what you're doing and put in the required mitigants.
Previously and historically, the securities held by PFAs are held long until when securities appreciate in value before they are sold. With the advent of securities lending, there's an opportunity, like my colleague Ronke said in Stanbic IBTC, where whether the securities appreciate or depreciate, or whether the position is bearish or bullish, there's a place and room for opportunity as a whole. This introduces more activities within the market. There's more buys, there's more sales. The brokers make more money. The NGX makes more money. The SEC and the Commission makes more money. And of course, the underlying clients, including the RSA holders, are, positioned to make more money, given that the pension fund will come into play as a lender. In terms of other positive impact to RSA holders, I think the fundamental principle around the fund type, which in the wisdom of PENCOM, bet the Fund 1 to Fund 4 should remain unchanged, given that Fund 1 is the most agile and most risky and brings best, additional investment returns for investors who have chosen that, fund, up to the last, which is the Fund 4 that speaks to the retirees. I guess within that band and that bracket, there are lots of room for opportunity for pension fund players or RSA holders to be able to choose to play within the securities lending space?
For starters, Nigeria still has, some way to go. So this is a great initiative and a step in the right direction. And it does show that we are beginning to open ourselves up, especially more internationally than we have before. I mean, of course, as you know, ABSA is, a business across, especially based in South Africa. But that being said, I sit in Nigeria in the Nigerian business. So I'll say for this purpose, I'm in Nigeria and I'm representing the Nigerian market. I think it's a great initiative. I know there are a few questions around how many security lending agents do we actually have currently, which the NGX will probably speak to later. And, a few more initiatives. I mean, I guess as we go along, I would also, push with the FMAN and other players in the market to see what's going on. But for sure, it's such a great thing on our side. We hope to be able to take advantage of the opportunity in that space as well.
The PFAs would like to make more money from securities they hold. So since the pension scheme started, we buy and we hold. We buy long, and for us, we would like to make more money from that we hold, because we are typically long-term investors. Someone said, who are we selling to? We are selling to ourselves. Who has the muscle to be able to buy those securities from us? It's ourselves. So typically we hold long, and what we need to do more is to see how we can influence the companies we invest in, because we are there for the long term. But whilst we are holding those securities, how can we make money from it? And securities lending is great. That's on the positive side. On the flip side, Peter mentioned flip side. There are flip sides, which is the risk. And, as PENCOM had said, we also need to think of the RSA holder. So what is the risk management process in place? Who are the players in place? What's the framework in place? How is the NGX structuring? What does SEC have? How do we deal with infractions? So the PFAs wants to be sure that the market is transparent. If there are infractions, it's dealt with quickly. And that will give them the confidence to be able to do it, right? That's one level. Another level is the fact that, we always try and brush the PFAs with one brush. So there are probably some PFAs that will want to say, I love this, I'm going to go ahead with it. And there are some that say, I don't want to go ahead with it based on their investment strategy. And that's fine, right? People can move cross funds, like Tunde had said, whether, from fund 1, which takes more risk, fund 4, retirees less risk, or even move within PFAs. But I think, overall, I think this is good for the markets, good for the PFAs, good for liquidity, good for the RSA holders, but I think it's in the how. How do we get around this? Knowledge, understanding is very important. So kudos to the NGX for organizing this. And we need to organize this more so that more people can be aware.
For securities lending, one, there's a detachment process, which is what we have to ensure. And one of the speakers had already mentioned that CSCS facilitates that detachment process. Secondly, also, we had spoken about how when corporate actions happen, dividends are paid. We want to ensure that the lender actually gets value, and that's also had been pre-signed in the agreement. CSCS also ensured that the associated proceeds are directed to the lender. And also at the conclusion of the transaction, part of what we also do is to ensure that there's a seamless transfer of the securities back to the sender. In terms of how the process works, I think I pretty much explained that the process would require certain pre-trade activities, which will be the detachment process. And that is what we will ensure that it's happened. And the detachment process involves actually transferring the securities from the position of the lender to the SLA and thereafter to the borrower. CSCS ensures that is done. We also ensure that when the transaction is unwound, securities are transferred back to the lender. The settlement, again, if there are trades around the securities, like I had explained earlier, the settlement will go through our normal standardized process.